So, blood is not that complex, but there's a lot of things in it, and we need to know the four key components that make up blood. They're outlined in the learning objectives here, but we're going to go into a little bit of detail in each one. But this is actually more just a fact recall, and it can be also presented as a comparison between the different compositions of the blood. So it might be a comparison between plasma and red blood cells, or white blood cells and red blood cells, or it might actually be more of a recall exercise where they ask you to name particular substances that are carried within these particular subunits within the blood. Because blood is made up of multiple cells all working together, it is actually classed as a tissue. And those four components are the plasma, which is the fluid part of the blood, the white blood cells used for immunity, red blood cells carries oxygen in the hemoglobin, and platelets, which are vital for clotting. About 55% of blood is plasma, about 45% is the red blood cells, and the remaining 1% is a mixture of both the white blood cells and the platelets. So they're a tiny part, but they're absolutely vital for survival. If you cut yourself and you do not have platelets, you cannot clot, so you can theoretically bleed to death if the cut is deep enough. And if you don't have white blood cells, your second and third line of defense are completely compromised. So the only protective barrier you have to protect you from invading pathogens is your physical barriers, such as skin, mucus, pH in the stomach, that sort of thing. However, the most important role of blood is to ensure that substances can be transported around the body for the reasons of delivering nutrients such as glucose or removal of waste. We'll see all these in a little bit more detail in a few moments, but it is vital for mass transport of substances around the body. The heart pumps this around the body, and the blood is the transport medium. So if you like to think of it as the heart is the engine, the blood vessels are the roads, and the substances on the blood are like the lorries, the trucks, and that sort of thing that are transporting goods around the country or around the body. So plasma is the major part of the blood. Like I said, it's about 55%, and it's a yellowish fluid. You can see it separated there in that picture. So it's vital to carry everything else. It's the substance that everything else floats in. Its main composition is water, but there is lots and lots of substances dissolved in it. A selection of them are shown here. You've got antibodies, antitoxins, hormones, all sorts of things are dissolved within this. Also, substances are delivered, such as glucose and amino acids, and mineral ions, such as salt, which are vital for maintaining osmotic balance and also providing energy for respiration and building blocks for proteins. But also, we need to get rid of waste products. These can be very harmful if they build up in the bloodstream. So the blood carries these away to be got rid of, either carbon dioxide removed via the lungs, or urea, which is made from protein breakdown, which is carried to the kidneys. There it's converted into urine, which passes out of the body. Probably the most distinctive part of the blood is the red blood cells. They give it its colour, and also they are vital for carrying oxygen to where it's needed. They've got a very unique shape. They're kind of donut shaped. The correct term is biconcave, and that increases their surface area massively. A curved shape gives it more surface area, so more oxygen can bind to the hemoglobin. To help with the carrying of oxygen, they've actually lost their nucleus completely. That means red blood cells can become stuffed full of oxygen, which is vital for the day-to-day running of the body. The substance that the oxygen binds to, which I mentioned already, is hemoglobin. It gives it its distinctive red colour. Contrary to popular belief, blood is not blue when it's deoxygenated, it's a burgundy, but when it's oxygenated, it's a very bright red colour. And when it's oxygenated, it's called oxyhemoglobin. When the oxygen is removed from the hemoglobin, it turns back to regular hemoglobin, which, like I said, is quite a dark red. It's sort of a foxy red. And that oxygen then can diffuse into the cells where it's delivered to the mitochondria for respiration. There are other cells in the bloodstream, and they are the white blood cells. They are actually very big compared to the red blood cells, and there's a lot less of them. We have about 10 million different types of white blood cell, but only a few hundred of each, unless we have a pathogen inside the body, in which case they replicate by mitosis, and we end up with the vast majority of them all working to protect us. The other distinct thing that separates the white blood cells from the red blood cells, apart from their colour, is the fact that they have a nucleus. And it is vital for it to allow it to manufacture the proteins, such as antibodies, which are part of our protective system. So there's two types of antibodies we really need to know about. There's antibodies and antitoxins. Both we'll look at in a lot more detail when we get onto immunity, but just for now, accept that white blood cells can make either antibodies or antitoxins. They can't make both, they either make one or the other. And the correct term for the generic name for a white blood cell is lymphocyte. There are other white blood cells, just to confuse the issue, that engulf and digest bacteria, and they're called phagocytes. From phage, to eat, and cyte, meaning cell. So it literally means eating cell. They go around in the bloodstream a little bit like Pac-Man, and any foreign objects they encounter, they will engulf and digest to break down before they become a threat. The final part of blood is the platelets. They are absolutely tiny, and to tell the truth, they are just tiny little fragments of cells. They're broken up cells. They have no nucleus. They are vital, though, for clotting. If you do not have them, you have a symptom called haemophilia, which means you cannot clot effectively or at all. So a simple scratch could be life-threatening. They will build up in the area of the site of injury. So a small scratch on the back of the hand, blood will start to come out, and the platelets, when exposed to the air, will bind together and form the clot. This helps to prevent further blood loss, which is very important. And also, it stops microbes getting in. So it actually helps the immune system. It's not really part of the immune system. That's a separate thing completely, but it does help with this. And as I said, if you don't have platelets, you can suffer from ease of bruising and excessive bleeding from any injury. So final points, we need to be able to identify all three of these from diagrams. Red blood cell at the top, no nucleus, very distinctive sort of donut shape. I always think it looks a little bit like a polo mint with the hole filled in. Then you've got the white blood cell, which has got the nucleus. That whole darker blue section there is the nucleus. It's segmented so it can allow the white blood cell to move around other cells, so it can ooze into spaces where it needs to get to. And the final one is a platelet, which is just a tiny little bit of a cell sort of crunched up there so it can stick together. Those little spikes that it allow it to latch onto other platelets and form the clot. And as always, just a few facts to finish off on. Blood is so complex. There's loads of facts out there, but I found a few really interesting ones. And one of them you can do the maths for yourself. We've got approximately 5 million red blood cells in a teaspoon of blood. And each red blood cell has approximately 280 million molecules of hemoglobin in it. So you can do the maths if you want to, and you can also find out how much blood there is in the body and work that out from a teaspoon. So you can work out roughly how many red blood cells you've got. If you donate blood, you actually can save up to 3 lives. And now there's apps that track where your blood goes, so it can tell you where it's being used, which is actually really nice because it's a nice feeling to know that it's being used for something, such as when I donated blood, it's being used in Liverpool. So quite interesting to see the journey it took to get there. It was within a couple of weeks of me donating as well. I found this fact, and I just thought I have to share this one with you. It takes over 1 million mosquitoes to drain an average human blood. And last ones to finish off on. It takes about 30 seconds for a red blood cell to move completely around your body. So when it leaves the heart to when it returns, it's about 30 seconds, roughly 30 heartbeats. And spiders, lobsters, snails, that sort of thing, have a lot of copper in their blood, so it actually makes it blue. And it's hemocyan in there. Hemo, blood, cyan, blue. Anyway, that's all the facts for now. Thank you. Bye.